Hey, 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 happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. This is live stream 760. If this is your first time joining me, let me point out, super casual around here. Normally, all we do is kind of kick back, talk about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then take a first look at a tabletop game release. Every once in a while, I will actually do a review. Like tonight. Yes, that's right. I am going to be doing a relatively quick review of Red Flag Over Paris from GMT Games. This is part of their kind of quick playing lineup of games that you can kind of knock out in a lunch hour. And honestly, I'm surprised the box is this big. I would have thought they'd try to go for a smaller footprint. I'll talk about that during the review. But it is a War Game Wednesday. Yes, it is a War Game Wednesday tonight. So we've got that cooking. But I do want to mention, if you're not overly familiar with the stream, we talk about the tabletop gaming news first. So if you are watching live, keep in mind, it's going to be about 25 to 30 minutes before we dive into Red Flag Over Paris. If you happen to be watching the stream after it's aired, tonight's about 60 minutes or more after it airs, there will be timestamps. So if you want to jump ahead, not catch the tabletop gaming news, which I don't know why you would, because there's a lot of cool stuff we're going to talk about. But if you want to just jump right into the review, there will be timestamps available for you in these show notes, as well as, depending on the device you're utilizing, could actually have the timestamps right there on the timeline of the video. Usually that's if you're using PC or Mac. It's basically how that operates. So there is that. Do want to remind you, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It will not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my recent review of the Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy Referees Tome. That's right. I took on the entire trifecta of Old School Essentials releases that are, you know, the tomes, and loved them. Absolutely love these. I'm going to have so much fun utilizing OSE. I'm going to use the advanced fantasy. I'm not going to use classic rules because I grew up with AD&D. That was my game. So I am running some OSR fantasy role-playing for family and friends, and I am using OSE. That is in the future. I kind of said that like I'm doing it right now, but that is not the case. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is live stream. So that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, maybe you want to chime in, learn something about Red Flag over Paris as I'm doing my review, by all means, jump on into chat. Although you have to be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours before you can take part in any of the live stream chats. Yet another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. So tonight we've got, first out the gate is Mr. Eddie T. Yes, he's a local lad. He's local to the Duct Tape Studios. So good to see Mr. Eddie T. John Vogel is here for a War Game Wednesday. Yes. Doug Roberts has popped on in. Good to see Doug. So I assume chat's going to be a little quieter than usual because we know that a couple of our regulars, in fact, both of the chat moderators, are not going to be hanging out live tonight. So the Madman and Flaming Huron are both engaged with other activities. I know the Madman, it's his every other Wednesday gaming group. So behave yourselves. Don't make me have to bust out the band hammer on you and slow down the show and everything. Whatever, right? All right, let me grab a quick sip here. And we are going to dive right on into the news because I've got a nice selection of news pieces tonight. Hitting stores this May from Capstone Games is the Terra Mystica Big Box. Here's the skinny on the big box. Only few other games have received as many awards in recent years as Terra Mystica. In this peaceful strategy game, you'll decide the destiny of your faction. Choose between witches, darklings, dragon masters, and 17 other factions. Terraform the world to your ideas and construct a large number of buildings. Upgrade them and gain various resources as regular income. Build your stronghold to activate your faction's special ability. Build temples and gain influence in the 4 cults of fire, earth, water, and air. Earth, wind, and fire, baby. And, air. Use the unique ability of your faction. Terra Mystica offers a great depth of play without being unnecessarily complicated. The numerous factions and different round scorings guarantee high replayability. This big box contains the Terra Mystica base game, the expansions Fire and Ice and Merchants of the Seas, and the Solo Automa expansion, which I believe is new. The Automa Solo box is actually an expansion that allows you to play Terra Mystica, you guessed it, alone. Play the base game or add one or both of the Fire and Ice and Merchants of the Seas expansions to provide yourself with plenty of additional gameplay. 10 different Automa factions and various difficulty levels are going to challenge you to prove your skills in the world of Terra Mystica. This also includes a variant to add Automa to a 2-player game as well as a neutral player. Pre-orders for the Terra Mystica Big Box are going to begin on March 8th. The Big Box is for 1 to 5 players, ages 14 and up. The game plays in 60 to 150 minutes, and the Big Box is going to carry an MSRP of $149.95. It is slated to arrive in stores on May 3rd. Well, I have always heard really good things about Terra Mystica. I have never had an opportunity to play it. I've never really had an opportunity to see it close up. So I should try to learn more about this game because it has won tons and tons of awards. And I know you're sitting there thinking, oh, $150 for a big box? Pretty pricey. Well, the core game itself is $79.95. I know the Fire and Ice expansion is $49.95. So right there, you're at like $130. So you're also getting the Merchants of the Seas and this solo expansion as well. The pricing might actually be saving you some money, to be honest. Of course, you would need to have not picked up Terra Mystica to be interested in the big box. Also, should mention that there was a Terra Mystica big box released, I think it was 2017. This is not it. This is a completely different big box. It's a bigger box, I guess we'll say. This April brings Wonderland's War from Skybound Games. Here's the latest about the release. The looking glass is shattered. Madness is being drained from the inhabitants, and the war has come to Wonderland. Alice, Mad Hatter, Red Queen, and Jabberwock must gather all that they can while playing nice at the Hatter's Tea Party before going to battle in Wonderland's War. In this drafting, bag-building, area control game, 2 to 5 players take the role as a faction leader who's been invited to the Hatter's Tea Party. Drink tea and eat cake as you move around the table drafting cards to gather your forces, build your towers, upgrade your leader, and recruit Wonderlandians to your cause. But one must be careful, as shards of the looking glass are spread throughout Wonderland. Once all the plates are empty, the tea party's over. That's right, the party's over. And war begins. Use the forces you gathered and Wonderlandians to battle your enemies in familiar locations. But make sure not to dry your shard chips or your towers will fall and you'll be out of the fight. Can you muster enough strength to win the battle? Or will you just try to gain region bonuses for set scoring throughout the game instead? After all the battles have been fought, a truce is called and everyone meets back at the tea party to plot their moves for the next fight. After 3 rounds, the faction with the most points will be crowned as the new leader of Wonderland. Wonderland's War is for 2 to 5 players, ages 13 and up, plays in about 45 to 75 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $69.99 when it arrives on April 20th. This could be kind of interesting. I got to be honest, I have never played a Skybound game. And it's nice to see them releasing more gamers games, I guess we'll say. Because I know they've got the card fight kind of, it's kind of a takeoff on Cards Against Humanity. I think it's called Super Fight, if I remember correctly. And has actually done really well for them. But the Skybound's been releasing more gamers sort of games. Although I will point out, I'm not overly keen on this art style. Alice looks kind of like an ugly little boy with long hair. Just being honest. She's supposed to be a pretty little girl. She looks sort of androgynous and ugly here. So I don't know. Russell Higgins is with us in chat. I don't think I said hello to Russell yet. Ed Omenal is with us as well. Should point out, Omenal is one of our reviewers over at thegaminggang.com. And I got some new goodies heading Omenal's way as well. I was actually going to shoot him an email tonight, and I will actually be shooting him an email, but I'm mentioning it to him right now because he's hanging out here in chat. Let's talk about some role-playing games, because yesterday I shared info about the Torg Eternity Essentials bundle of holding. Today, I'm sharing the second bundle, which features a trio of Torg Cosms. Here's the deets on the deal. Look sharp, Storm Knight. This all-new Torg Eternity Cosms bundle is the second of 2 offers in progress featuring PDFs for Torg Eternity, the cinematic cross-genre tabletop role-playing game of the Possibility Wars from Ulisses Spiele. If you're new to the game, start with the revived Torg Eternity Essentials bundle, which is currently in progress, which I, once again, talked about last night. Then return here for this new bundle with lots of material for the Living Land, Nile Empire, and Isle Cosms, Invading Realities, funded in 3 relatively recent Kickstarter campaigns. For just $24.95, you get all 6 titles in the starter collection with a retail value of $112.50 as DRM-free PDFs, including the 3 full-length source books for the Living Land, the Nile Empire, and Isle, plus long campaign scenarios for each setting: the God Box, Fires of Ra, and Revenge of the Keratin. These 6 ebooks can keep any group busy for months. If you pay more than the current threshold price of $40.36, which will be different by the time you actually go take a peek at this bundle, you'll level up and also get the entire bonus collection with 15 more supplements worth an additional $112.50. Ulisses Spiele has published an identical slate of source material for each Cosm. I'll explain that once I finish, because I don't think I would have presented it as identical. You have Delphi missions, a GM screen and archetypes booklet, a GM pack with various play aids, and 2 full-color map packs. This bonus collection gives you 3 of these 5 supplement sets, covering, once again, the Living Land, the Nile Empire, and Isle. These savings run through March 21st. 10% of your payment after gateway fees will be donated to this offer's designated charity, Direct Relief. Omanal says, come on, Jeff, we want American McGee's Alice in Wonderland. I never played that. I never played it. I remember seeing some of the graphics, some of the character designs for it, which I thought were pretty cool, but I never played the game. And I, played tons of, PC games. Russell Higgins says they didn't realize this was an RPG. Yes, this is actually the 2nd edition of the RPG. The original Torg came out, I want to say, in the 90s, and that was from West End Games. Boy, West End Games sure did release a lot of good stuff. Anyway, I was going to say, the way it's presented in this press info is that these sets are identical, and it's not the case. What actually Ulisses Spiele has done is each of the Cosms gets specific items released for it. So they get a long campaign book. They also get a Delphi missions book, which is a scenario collection. Then there's a Game Master screen that's devoted to that Cosm and archetypes. So, and then different maps in that. So they're not identical. It's just they're the same kind of releases. So the Delphi missions for Nile Empire are absolutely completely different than the Delphi missions for the Living Lands. As I mentioned yesterday, I think Torg is a very interesting setting. I don't think it's perfect. I think kind of the mega plot works against it sometimes, especially original Torg, which I wasn't all too familiar with until Torg Eternity was on the horizon, or it had just come out, and Ulisses had reached out, and I've reviewed some of the Torg releases as well. We may get to see more Torg stuff, more Ulisses Spiele stuff in the future, because they've reached out. Once again, they've changed some folks who are in their PR departments, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Omanal says that their friend liked Torg, but they never got into it. Yeah, the mega meta plot, some people don't dig. And as far as I understand, once again, I'm not all that knowledgeable about the first Torg was that early on, the whole big plot, and that was very cool. And then the wheels kind of fell off towards the end when you had like NPCs who were like super powerful, and it was the player characters were kind of like in their shadows, which should never be the case in a role playing game. NPC should never overshadow your players unless it's the big bad, and that only happens on occasion. But like I said, I think it's kind of cool. I like the cosms are all different. So kind of give you an idea, Living Lands is sort of a lost world kind of atmosphere there. One of the things I kind of get a kick out of is like certain things can't exist or have a very hard time existing in the different cosms. So if you go into the Living Lands with like modern weapons and things like that, they may morph into, like primitive weapons. I kind of get a kick out of that. So Nile Empire is kind of 1930s pulp action. And then Isle is kind of straight up fantasy, kind of high fantasy with elves and orcs and things like that. One thing I will also mention, and I don't know, it's not like I have stock in this or anything, but I just find this to be an interesting system that deserves a little bit of love. There are quite a few right now, Torg Eternity kind of core releases that are pay what you want over on Drive-Thru RPG. So you could check this out before jumping into the bundles. There are a few things that are available as pay what you want. Of course, we already know pay what you want means you don't have to pay anything. And of course, obviously enough, the publishers realize that as well. If you check it out and you like it and you decide to pay, cool deal. I will actually be talking about some pay what you want in a few moments as well. On to the next news piece. Actually, first, Magic killed West End Games, Russell says. Omenal says they remember Torg was in the late 80s. That's very possible. That is very, very possible. I used to pick up, once again, we've talked about these things. I used to pick up all the Star Wars stuff that came out from West End Games. Never ran it. But, of course, I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of Star Wars authors who picked all those books up as reference material. They weren't running the game either. But also had Paranoid. West End Games was a good game company. And it just, good game companies die out. It happens. It happens. Okay, following a successful Kickstarter run, Gallant Knight Games is releasing the Highcaster fantasy role-playing game in print and PDF. Here's the dope. Highcaster is a game about creating legends. It's the story of a civilization rising from the ashes, reaching out into the vast unknown to create a new world and destroy the decay and corruption that threatens it. You'll play great heroes and create stories that will enter the chronicles and become history for future generations. It's a time of darkness, literally and figuratively. There are no stars in the sky. The world's civilization has collapsed into tiny pockets of societies, separated by wilderness, overcome with decay and corruption. But in this darkness, there is hope as societies begin to reach out beyond their safe havens to find each other. Heroes trek across the wilderness to build safe passages and rid the world of the chaos and destruction left over from the cataclysm. As a tabletop role-playing game, Highcaster will provide you with a rich tapestry from which to build. But think of it as a set piece to create your own history, full of incredible stories about amazing people who defied all odds to make their world better and safer. Create long-lasting tales of legend, courage, and hope. Put the stars back in the night sky. You can score the 319-page full-color hardcover over at Drive-Thru RPG for $39.99, or you can grab the PDF for $19.99. I do believe that this is kind of a storytelling game as opposed to, say, like Tiny D6, which is something Gallant Knight Games is really well known for. So I believe this is not like a Tiny D6 system at all, but this is more towards a storytelling game rather than, a crunchy RPG. So looked kind of interesting. So I thought I would share the news with you. Finally, our friends over at Chaosium Inc. is making the Call of Cthulhu Adventure Supplement. Does Love Forgive? Pay what you want for the PDF over the next 2 weeks. Here's a reason why from Chaosium Inc. Dear friends, we're making the Call of Cthulhu Scenario Collection. Does Love Forgive? Pay what you want for the next 2 weeks. Its regular price is $5.99. If you download it, instead of paying us, we encourage you to make a donation to organizations supporting people seeking safety from the conflict in Ukraine. Does Love Forgive was originally published in Polish by our friends Black Monk Games. As a neighbor to Ukraine, Poland is welcoming an influx of refugees. It's reported over 327,000 people have sought refuge so far, with the queue still going for many miles on the Ukrainian side of the border. Black Monk is running their own charitable support efforts and have links where you can donate directly to Polish aid organizations. Here are some of the places that you can donate if you're picking up Does Love Forgive. There is the International Community of the Red Cross, United Nations Refugee Committee, Save the Children, Doctors Without Borders as well. NPR, National Public Radio, also has a non-exhaustive list of organizations that are asking for assistance. As our friends Black Monk have said, we can't do much alone, but together we have the strength that matters. So once again, the Call of Cthulhu Adventure Supplement includes 2 adventures. Does Love Forgive, which I reviewed, and I thought it was all right. I liked one of the adventures quite a bit more than the other. But it is pay what you want for the next couple of weeks over at Drive-Thru RPG, and Chaosium Inc. and me ask that if you do download it and you like it, make a small donation to any number of possible places that are helping out the crisis in Ukraine. Right, that is it for tonight's news. Of course, strangely enough, I do have to mention that since we were talking about Drive-Thru RPG, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go to Drive-Thru RPG, say for Highcaster, not necessarily Does Love Forgive, but if you're going to go for anything else, stop by thegaminggang.com first, please. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. Those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep gaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you like the channel, if you visit thegaminggang.com, essentially, if you like what we do, you can always buy me a cup of coffee or some soda by swinging on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And there are quite a few people who use the Drive-Thru banners over on the website, as well as swing on over to PayPal to make little donations too. And it is much appreciated. Thank you very much. All right. As I mentioned, that's it for the news tonight. One thing I do want to point out before I jump into my review of Red Flag over Paris is that throughout the Now, it took me a half hour before I started, using words incorrectly. As Coco B has joined us in chat. Omanel says Torg came out in 1990, but it all blurs back then. Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know. Russell says they have a bunch of lead miniatures from Torg. Sweet, very cool. Anyway, I was going to say, throughout March, the board game reviews that I'm going to do, I am going to try to get my reviews 15 minutes or less. I know I tend to just ramble on, things like that, but I am going to try board game reviews. Because the funny thing is, I think people kind of like my off-the-cuff stream of consciousness discussion about role-playing games. So I'm going to kind of still do my thing with that. But I am going to try to get the board game reviews shorter, a little more concise. I'm still not going to script them because I don't. Only scripting out when I have to deal with is when I'm doing the news, sharing the news with you. So just wanted to share that. Hey, Flaming Huron has arrived. Good deal. I understand from last night's stream, I believe Flaming Huron was going to a job interview. So hopefully that went very well. Break a leg. Or maybe you broke a leg. We'll find out. So I am going to review Red Flag over Paris in just a moment. But first, a short intermission.
Mr. Projectionist, stop the show. Here's great news you ought to know. We've just got a shipment of taste-thrilled treats, all tip-top quality and delicious eats. There are hot dogs and popcorn and candy galore. There's soft drinks and coffee and a whole lot more. So direct your steps to our refreshment stand to enjoy the finest snacks in all the land.
Yes. I know every stream there's always something new, some new little theater or drive-through intermission, a little blurb. I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. I get a kick out of it. Okay, so without further ado, tonight I am going to be sharing my review of Red Flag over Paris from GMT Games. It's designed by Fred Serval with art provided by Donald Hegarty. The game is for 1 or 2 players. It's a 2-player game. There are some solo rules that are available as well. I would personally say that this is for ages 12 and up. Depends on, how much gaming that 12-year-old has done. Maybe ages 14 and up. All depends. Plays around 30 to 45 minutes. And Red Flag over Paris carries an MSRP of $42. So let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Red Flag over Paris set up. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to drop off. I'm not going to stay picture in picture because I want to make sure that I show you the entire board, but I will come back picture in picture in just a moment. So let's get rid of that real quick. So this is a 2-player game, and this is kind of built on the skeleton of Mark Herman's Fort Sumter. So if you played Fort Sumter, you're going to be relatively familiar with how this is going to play. Flaming Heron says they won't be able to make live shows for the foreseeable future. Well, we're going to have to get somebody to assigned as another chat moderator. But hey, congrats. Sounds like Flaming Heron got the job. So very sweet. Very cool. So I will point out, as I'm going through this, I'm probably not going to be able to take a peek at chat too much. Otherwise, this review is going to be all over the place. But I will take a peek from time to time to see if somebody has like specific rules, questions, and things like that. I will point out I am not going to go through all the rules and exactly how you play Red Flag over Paris, simply because there are websites out there, there are channels out there that are specifically devoted to historical games and war games that do really good jobs of just, getting through all of the, the nitty gritty. The fine gents over at the Player's Aid are a great example, or the discerning gamer. I always forget his name. Sorry, I don't catch their videos enough, but I do know they do really good wargaming reviews and deeper dives in that. So what's going on in this game is you've got two factions. You've got the French military, and you also have the Commune, the Paris Commune. Essentially, they're communists. So they are kind of battling for control. Who is going to operate the French government following their defeat in the Franco-Prussian War? So this is 1871. And so this is not a war game. This is a strategy game, but it is not a war game, although it's taking place right after a war. And one of the sections that you're trying to control is military. But keep in mind, this is not a war game at all. This is a card-driven strategy game. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to play Red Flag over Paris. So each round, and you'll play at most 4 rounds, but each round, the players are both going to receive 2 objective cards and 4 strategy cards. As a lot of people referred to Mark Herman's Fort Sumter as Twilight Struggle Light, this operates a little bit the same way, whereas your strategy cards are going to provide you with either an event. Well, it's going to provide you with an option, either the event or operations points. So here, this favors the French military. So you'll have blue favors the French military, red favors the commune, gray is essentially neutral. So you can either use the event or you can use the operations points. And for the operations points, it's pretty simple. What you're able to do with those points is you're able to add influence or remove influence from a location. So there is an area control aspect to this game as well. So when you're finishing up, you're totaling up your victory points, it's very important for you to have control of areas and control areas that you have objective cards for on the rounds that you're going to score objective cards. So as an example, if I were the French military player, I would probably want to play this for the event because it says use up to 4 operations points in Fort d'Azay. I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce all this stuff. But, seeing I'm not French. So if I wanted to, I could either use 2 operations points wherever, or I could use 4 operation points right here. So we do have these different locations. So we have political, we have military. And because, as I mentioned, this is area control. I'm going to get these cards out of the way here. We're looking at, on this side, we have political. On this side, we have military. So we have the Royalists, we have the National Assembly, and we have Republicans. So this is more, I guess we'd say, because even though this is political, this is more social, whereas this is more political. But down here, we've got the Catholic Church, We've got the press, and then we have social movements. So you can have presence and you can have control of these various different areas. So as an example here, the French military has control of the royalists. The communists have control over social movements. They have presence regarding the French press. So if you don't have the most influence in a location, if you're tied, then you're considered to have presence. If you have more or you're the only one in a location, then you would have control. So when you have your objective cards, you can receive 2 to start off your turn. You're going to discard 1 face down. You're going to keep this secret. You're going to keep this hidden. And what you're going to do is it's going to tell you something that you need to control. So for example, here, let's say I'm the French military player. Let's say I kept that. So it's saying if I control the royalists at the end of the round, I get to do this. And I will actually save this card. I'll put it on the side to go towards my victory at the end of the game. If I didn't control the royalists, then I'm just going to discard this card and I don't get any benefits because I wasn't able to complete my objective for the round. So we do have quite a few objective cards, and your objectives stay hidden from your opponent. But as an example, if you've played Twilight Struggle, a lot of times you can kind of tell what your opponent's trying to do by where they're putting influence and things like that. And then again, there's ways to kind of shake your opponent into thinking you're doing one thing where you're actually got your eyes on something else. All right, so then we have the strategy cards. And I like all GMT games, we get some nice graphics. We get a little bit of flavored text down on the cards as well. Really, really nicely done. Component quality of this is top notch. Nice thick board. Of course, I mean, we got cubes and stuff. Cubes are cubes. Cylinders are cylinders. But the card stock is nice and thick. So these will hold up to a lot of play. As with any game that utilizes cards that have to be shuffled, I always recommend just go get some sleeves. Even if you go get penny sleeves that really aren't a penny anymore. But we've got a nice selection of events going on. Once again, this is a game that you're actually going to learn some history by playing. It's got a nice, extensive playbook. I did a first look unboxing video on one of the live streams. So if you want to get a bit closer look at some of the components in that, by all means, check that out. Each of the players will also have their Final Crisis event card. So this is an event card that they're going to keep for when the Final Crisis actually is activated, I guess we'll say. So the Final Crisis takes place if you play through 3 full rounds, or if each of the players have broken into the final spot on their own crisis tracks with cubes. So with the cubes, you're essentially going to unlock cubes from these tracks. Now, players will also have a pool of the cubes. You'll notice here that the French military has far fewer cubes than the Commune does. But when Commune cubes are removed from the board, they're removed from the game. Whereas when these are removed, they just go back into the supply. So that's important to keep in mind. One aspect of Red Flag over Paris that I really like is that there are some wrinkles to this that makes this, in my opinion, just my opinion, because people got upset that I said, yeah, I thought Fort Sumter was okay. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was just phenomenal like some reviewers out there thought. And there were some gamers out there who were upset that I wasn't calling Fort Sumter like a 10 out of 10. Red Flag over Paris has some additional little wrinkles that are going on that I really, really like. And I got to be honest, I like Red Flag over Paris more than I did Fort Sumter. So anyway, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be playing your strategy cards in order to take advantage of events and place influence. So sometimes the events might say you can replace influence someplace or add influence cubes somewhere or remove your opponent's cubes. So when you're placing influence, you have to, this is very similar to Twilight Struggle as well. You have to place your influence somewhere adjacent to a location you have influence or someplace you do have influence or someplace that the event specifically tells you that you can spend operations points. And you spend operation points to remove influence from your opponent and add influence of your own. So that's one of the cool little wrinkles as well to this that I like. Very similar to Twilight Struggle, where it's you just can't throw influence wherever you want it. You have to have kind of a path to it. And as you can see, the board is marked with how things are adjacent to each other. Another cool aspect is that you can't just remove military influence. You actually have to be able to have more influence surrounding it. And then you'll actually draw a card and look at the number here. And if I remember correctly, right off the top of my head, I think it has to be equal to or lower than the adjacency influences and influence in that location. And I thought that was kind of cool. So it makes it a little harder for you to just pluck influence from the military map. You can also have fortifications represented by these discs, barricades as well to make it more difficult for your influence to be removed. So you also have momentum. So you'll have momentum swinging back and forth, very similar to Twilight Struggle, where we have the kind of seesaw victory points. So as you gain momentum, you'll unlock more cubes if you are the French military player. You'll also get victory points as well, and you'll also track your victory points up here. So you're going to go through your different rounds. You're going to have your 4 strategy cards each round. You're going to play 3 of them. You're going to go back and forth. So you have an initiative as well. So you're going to determine initiative. So either the Commune or the French military will have initiative. They get to choose. Do they want to play first or have their opponent play their card first? So you're still going to have, you're going to have 1 leftover card. And you're going to keep that card hidden. Once again, you're going to push it off to the side. You're going to save that for the final crisis. So when you get to the final crisis, either essentially the 4th round or the following round after these cubes have all been released on both sides, you're going to actually play those cards. So that's going to make up your hand. Those cards you place to the side are going to make up your hand. And you can only have as many cards as there were rounds completed. So, which kind of makes sense. So then you're going to just go through, once again, doing your influence, putting it in, removing it, playing events. And then you're going to determine who's got control over the various different areas. You're also going to have victory points that you could have earned earlier throughout the game. And if the French military has more military power, then the Commune has political power, then the French military win. If the Commune has more political power, then the French military has military power, then the Commune player will win. One aspect of the event cards that I think is cool is, so as an example, if you were playing Twilight Struggle and you played an opponent's card for the operations points, that event took place. Here, that's not the case. So if I were the French military player and I played this card for the 1 operations point, I could do it and not worry about this event whatsoever. Interesting thing is when it becomes your opponent's turn, they can discard a card to play the event, if it's their event, from the top of your discard pile. I like that. I think that's pretty cool. It opens up some additional options for players as well. And I think it kind of balances things because, of course, once again, this is a card-driven game. So it is very possible for you to get crappy cards. It happens. I've played games of Twilight Struggle where it's like, are there Soviet events in this deck? Because, of course, I'm always forced to play as the Soviets. I think I played Twilight Struggle as the United States once. Right, I'm going to pop back over here. So all in all, I really like Red Flag over Paris. I'm a big fan of card-driven historical games. You probably already know that. This game only has 8 pages of rules. So you are not going to get lost in the rules. Although I want to mention that it is kind of odd that the setup for the game isn't in the rules of play. It's actually in the playbook. That I thought was a little unusual. And it's been a while since I played Fort Sumter. I don't remember if that was the case or not. So it was kind of funny when Cameron, my nephew, and I, because that's who I've played this against, when we were just going to jump in to play, I was like, where's the setup? And I'm like, I'm looking at, there's player aids, and I'm like, no, that's not it. I thought maybe it was on a card. I'm like, I don't remember it being on a card during the unboxing, but maybe it was. Nope. It's right here. It starts off with your example of play, and then it tells you how to set the game up. But something, once again, we got the playbook here. This playbook is like 5 times longer than the rule book and really, really well done. Really, really like the presentation. I think this has some visual pop. It looks similar to Fort Sumter, especially in this area like here. But like I said, I don't know if it's because it's such an unusual topic. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I like this quite a bit more than I did Fort Sumter. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera because I'm going to share some final thoughts here and give Red Flag over Paris a review score. And also tackle a few thoughts that I would have that I think are probably going to be on some folks' minds. So one of the things that I assume GMT Games fans are going to be curious about is, so if you've got Fort Sumter, do you pick up Red Flag over Paris? Because it is similar. It's very similar. It's built on top of the skeleton of mechanics for Fort Sumter. The answer to that is probably a little complex. I would say if you're very interested in the subject, like I knew like nothing about this. I mean, I knew about the Franco-Prussian War. I didn't know anything about this. I was like, huh, this is really interesting. This is pretty cool. I would say definitely pick it up. If you already have Fort Sumter and you're like, the French Commune, that sounds kind of interesting. Or I should say Paris Commune. I want to check that out. Then yes. If you're looking for something that's going to be a completely different kind of game experience, no. That's very, very similar, although there are some additional wrinkles that I really like. So that's one of the aspects. Is this a gateway game? Yes, this is most definitely a gateway game. I would not consider it necessarily a gateway game into wargaming, because even though the topic is essentially who's going to run France following their defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, there's no conflict simulation going on here. Although this did end badly historically, I'm not going to spoil that. So it is essentially, in my opinion, it is a good gateway game for more mature gamers, but not necessarily a gateway game into wargaming. All in all, I think component quality is top notch. As I mentioned before, I like the gameplay. I like the seesaw back and forth. I like some of the new wrinkles that were added to the gameplay of Fort Sumter for Red Flag over Paris. And all in all, this game is a nice 45 minutes or so. I know I've heard some people say it's played in about 20 minutes. I've played this 4 times with my nephew Cameron, and he's not the fastest player, but he's not like analysis paralysis constantly. And it's taken us 35, 45 minutes most times. The first time we played was almost an hour. But once again, we went like all 4 rounds, including the actually, you know what? We've never actually started the final crisis early, now that I think about it. But yeah, about 30 to 45 minutes. So I definitely recommend Red Flag over Paris. On a score of 0 to 10, I give it a very, very solid 8.5 out of 10. Certainly do recommend it. It's a nice 2-player game, and you might learn something along the way as well. As I mentioned with GMT Games, if you're kind of curious and you're like, yeah, you know, I might actually like to pick this up, don't sit on the fence, because GMT Games sell out rather quickly because they don't have massive print runs. And you don't want to sit around waiting a year or 2 or more for the next time it's up on the P500 pre-order list and goes to the printers and everything else. So if you're kind of like, hey, yeah, this looks kind of cool, pick it up while you can. Once again, it's got an MSRP of $42. All right. That is it for this time out. I'm going to check out chat here. Like I said, once again, if I kept looking at chat while I did the review, review would have made less sense than it probably already didn't make much sense. Anyway, so Flaming Heron says, actually prefer describing how to play by just showing rather than just spewing rules sometimes. I don't know too many people who just regurgitate rules. I know that was a thing for a while with some reviewers where I was like, oh, well, this rule, that rule, this rule. And it was like, so what does the game play like? You know, it's like, I don't need to know. Like, it's like setting up a game. I don't need to sit there for a review and watch somebody set the game up. That's a how to play video. So, all right. Anyway, that is it for tonight. Got through that in about 25 minutes or so. Like I said, I just, ramble on. JFP Falconer Honor has popped in. Asks, actually, good to see you, JPF. Might have missed it. Is there a solo bot? Yes. I can't tell you how it plays solo. I did not play it solitaire. So I can't tell you how well the bot plays, but I will tell you that you can play as either the French military or as a commune against a bot. So you're not like locked into one faction you have to play in the solo game. So that's cool as well. But no, I didn't check it out solo, but there is solitaire available to you. And it's not where you have to like hot seat with yourself, you know. Okay, I'm disassociating myself with, you know. I know people like to play that way if there's no solitaire aspect to a game, but I can't do that. I just can't sit there and be like, okay, well, this personality is going to do this. All right. Anyway, thank you very much for hanging out. Always appreciate it. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. Not only let you know when I stream the Dispatch Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. It also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my recent review of the Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy Referees Tome from Necrotic Gnome and Exalted Funeral. Next Monday, I have no idea what we're going to take a look at. There's supposed to be some stuff in transit. I don't know. I have no idea. But of course, I will be back on Monday. Those of you who are watching live, thank you very much. Always appreciate you hanging out. If you took part in chat, bonus experience points for you. I keep telling you, you're going to level up soon. You're going to love those special video watching abilities and feats you're going to earn. Of course, I know a lot of people out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Like Flaming Huron's not going to be able to watch live anymore. Doesn't matter how you watch. Could be live, could be Memorex. All that matters to me, what's important to me, is you take some time out of your lives and you watch the videos, and it's a good feeling to know people do that. All right, everybody enjoy the rest of the week and the upcoming weekend. As I mentioned, I'll be back on Monday. And of course, here's hoping all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang. See you Monday. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.